Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is the place to be for education about asexuality, all things sexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live right now, post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as we're going along if you're enjoying any of the content, find it useful, helpful, or insightful in some way. If you don't know who I am, I'm Sandra Burmy, author of this beautiful book, Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of my asexual diversity. And it is real life asexual stories. Each interviewee's got their own chapter and tells their own asexual story in regards to love, life and sex. So if you haven't grabbed a copy already, click the links down below. And if you didn't know what today is, it's the final day of Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. Now, I did this yesterday because I forgot there's 31 days in July. So you'll hear yesterday's video saying that it was the last day, but actually today is the last day of this Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month 2019. So I do apologise for that. Please forgive me. You thought I'd gone crazy, but then you already know I'm pretty crazy anyway, so that's cool. So yeah, we're going to be discussing tonight to stop this damage right here, right now. So Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month was a month I founded in 2017 when I brought this book out, which is to celebrate our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. And each July, I read passages out from this book. So, as the actual final day of Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, which I got wrong yesterday because I forgot it was 31 days in July instead of 30, I'm going to read you Zoe's story in answer to this question because I think it's really important to discuss this. How difficult is it for you to be asexual in a sexualized world? I think she brings up some really important points. It's difficult in that I feel I am still hiding part of my true identity. Many people perceive me as strange because I don't flirt, don't engage in telling ribald jokes, don't have a partner in my life, don't go gaga over over so-and-so hot and crazy celebrity. I think I've read that kind of right. Don't have a partner in life. Don't go gaga over so-and-so hot celebrity. Don't wear shirts that put most of my breasts on display for everyone else's viewing pleasure. They feel something is off about me, but they can't pinpoint what. I won't deny being an asexual if someone asks me, but no one has. This is another difficulty. I don't have anyone in my life who would understand asexuality, which is really tough. Also, I'm fed up with all the overtly sexual messages in our society that are so negative for women. From fashion, movies, TV, print media, billboards, etc., the message is still that a woman's only validity is for sex, which thereby invalidates me. Boobs and butts, that's all a woman is good for. As a woman and a human being, this message is insulting. As a consumer, it does not make me want to buy those products. It's the 21st century and young girls are still being given this damaging message. Dresses must be this short, shoes must be this high, makeup must be plastered on, all for you to be acceptable enough to step out your door and into public view. Now, if you watch me on this channel, you'll know predominantly I don't wear any makeup a lot of the time. I do put some makeup on when I go out clubbing like I did last night, but in generally view when I'm going out a lot of the time I don't wear makeup. I don't wear much of it that often anyway, but I really think it's true. I think it's very, very damaging society, and I've noticed there's quite a few asexuals in the public media that do obviously have quite a highly sexualized profile even though they're asexual. Obviously, you know, you could argue that maybe some of the stuff I talk about is quite sexual as well in nature. And I think it's quite sad that I wouldn't say we have to do it as such, but I think it does grab more media attention if an asexual person is dressed quite sexily or is talking about sex. Do you know what I mean? Because it's something that outside heteronormative world really relate to the most. It's sad that they can't relate to asexuality more, to really truly understand it, if you know what I mean. I mean, one of my most searched for terms on this channel is sex, which you would have thought it would be asexuality. But yeah, when you look in my analytics, it comes up with sex quite a lot. So I think it's because I use the word sex in my titles quite a lot, like no sex movies and stuff like that. People think that, oh, the word keyword sex, so I'll go and check out that channel. And I do think it's a bit difficult, you know, that kind of like a lot of views probably are people who are sexual, but if it's to use that for the advantage of, you know, getting more eyeballs on asexuality, if it's done the right way, then I think it's, you know, it's not too bad. But I do believe in what Zoe says, that I don't think as a society we should have all this sexualization of women's bodies all the time. You know, because when I was out clubbing last night, if you've seen that video, there was an older foreign guy, and literally I had to tell him 3 times no. Had to make perfectly clear and him go off in a huff, because, you know, he wanted to put his body close to mine. I wasn't interested. I could hold his hands to dance. I'm like thinking, okay, that's fine. As soon then he was grabbing me near him, trying to pull me near his crotch. I'm not interested. If I was going to be physically close to any guy, it'd be a younger guy in his early to mid-20s, not this older guy. I didn't like it at all. I felt really uncomfortable. I was okay just with holding his hands. I thought maybe he's a decent, respectful guy who will just literally like twist me around with his hands and stuff like that, you know, like to dance with me, like old-fashioned dancing in that way, if you like. But no, didn't last for long, and then he's like literally grabbing me to be close to him. It's like, I'm not interested. And I know, like, last night I was wearing more of a provocative dress, if you like, than I would usually wear, but just because I'm dressed like that also doesn't give, maybe they should have asexual dance club. Yeah, but I'd probably be the only one who attended it. I don't know that many asexuals that actually go dancing. And the thing is with that, Heather, is it would be great, but I mean, who's going to fund it? That's the problem. A lot of the asexual stuff that people want, it's like, well, who's going to pay for it? Are you going to pay for it as an asexual person? Are you going to pay ticket price to come? Do you know what I mean? I think that's the problem. I think there's a lot of stuff they could do for asexuals. I recently read on someone's profile who does asexual activism work that they said there was an ace cafe, and it was a time for asexuals to get together. I don't know if the Ace Cafe was originally set up for asexuals, but they had some time when it was decorated with asexual stuff, and asexuals going to there. I don't know if it's a permanent thing or just like a one-off. So I think they could have like asexual clubs throughout the UK. I think they could, you know, like have stuff like that. But it's like, who's going to fund it? Unless you're a non-profit. I'm not a non-profit, but unless you're a non-profit, you know, it's like, who's going to pay for it? It's not fair to expect the people who are activists to pay it out of their own money if they don't have it. Do you know what I mean? And they've got to make an income to live in the first place to be able to do the asexual work in the first place. Like some people, they make a living out of asexuality, you know? There's a model you've probably seen, and her work is modeling. It was modeling before she became, you know, better known in the asexual community. But it's a fact, you know, she leverages the asexuality to her advantage, as well as working both ways, you know what I mean? So the fact she's asexual but wears sexy lingerie has caught the media attention, so she gets more publicity, so she gets more bookings for her lingerie deals. Do you see what I mean? So she's not doing it just because she is asexual, but obviously she is as well, and trying to create a lot more knowledge about it, because she can use her influence as a model to you know, to like reach a bigger audience with asexuality. But it, you know, it's got double meaning. It's you know, it's both, which I can appreciate, you know. But she's already got a full-time modeling career. Just like the asexual work, I think, just gives her more prominence in the UK as it is. And so she probably gets a lot, I'm guessing, I'm only theoretically guessing, that she gets a lot more media attention because of it, and probably gets a lot more business in that way. But, you know, I do asexual stuff, but I wasn't doing anything to do with asexuality before I started asexual stuff, if you know what I mean. So all my asexual stuff I've started from scratch. I haven't got anything like pre-done already, if you know what I mean. So, you know, I think people who do asexual stuff, they have to make a living out of it to a certain extent. Well, how can they keep it up unless they've got a full-time job that they can use to fund all the asexual stuff they do? They can't sustain it, you know, unless they're set up as a non-profit and they get money for it. The money's got to come from somewhere, either out of their own pocket or out of a few people's pockets or the general public, you know. But there's loads of people, there's loads of actual businesses, for example, that design merchandise, and they copy my stuff. You know, it's, you know, I just have to get used to it. It's not nice, but they literally take my exact designs and literally copy it onto their own stuff, which is against the rules of Amazon. So I have to keep like writing letters to Amazon to tell them to take it off, you know, because I spent hours individually designing my work and I wouldn't like it, you know, I don't think anyone else would like it. But yeah, I found one of my designs, I know, because it has this shape in the middle of one of the letters that's unique, and they copied it exactly. And I'm thinking, you know, you do get people who do that. So and then these companies are bigger, they have like, and they just copy your work, if you know what I mean. So I think that's a bit rude, but there you go. I think it's good in the sense they obviously think, oh, I've got good products, because they wouldn't be copying them. I think it's bad that they have to copy them. But, you know, better that than copying sexual stuff all the time, you know. But I think it's really bad, the portrayal of women. I still think it's like that. And I think that there does still need to be some change. But unless asexuals show the more asexual side of our character, I guess, then, you know, there's asexuals for all different varieties. So some asexuals are on the more sexual end of the spectrum. Some asexuals do have some sexual behavior, including myself, you know. And I think that, you know, unless more and more asexuals come forward and express their real disinterest in sex, their hating of it, if you like, their loathing of it, their and create something different, something that's attractive but without all the sexual connotations, I don't think the media is going to take so much notice. You know, the media still takes a lot more notice of anything to do with asexuality that's to do with sex as well. You know, all the headlines are like, you know, I love my partner but I never have sex with them, or what does it feel like for an asexual to have sex in this situation, or, you know what I mean? It's always really, even a lot of asexual media stuff's always got sex involved in some way, because it's what the general population of the whole world, the majority, you know, relate to. And so that is really the problem. You know, it's the problem is that because we are a minority, it's harder for our voices to be heard. So we have to sometimes use some majority tactics in order to create a voice. And I think, you know, it's so bad. And I do, you know, hate the fact that women's bodies are so sexualized. You know, I mean, I don't like nudity. I can't stand it. I don't know why people love the female naked body so much. It makes me feel sick. I mean, to me, it's like it should be private. It's like, why are you showing me bits I don't need to see? But I have grown used to love my own body now, so I can kind of, that's the only time I can kind of see why people might like it. But I don't have any interest in other people's. Apart from a guy's chest, I quite like, you know, I like now. I didn't used to even be that keen on that, but I prefer them without chest hair personally. I think they look more aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, so I think, Heather, you're right in the sense that it'd be nice if they had some more asexual stuff around the country and world, but I just, you know, the funding of it is obviously the issue. And I do think, you know, it's very difficult. I find it very difficult in the asexual community to know when a person's interested in me romantically or is just a friend. Do you know what I mean? And I think the general world finds it hard to understand asexuality as well, because there is so many variations, and especially as asexuality is part of LGBT plus QIA, you know, a lot of people probably just think asexuals are LGBT, which as a heteromantic asexual, I'm not. So I think, you know, I think it's a bit damaging for people who are not asexual, who don't understand about asexuality, to specifically think every asexual person is LGBT person, if you know what I mean. Because if I was not asexual and I was looking and came across this word asexuality and I saw asexuals are part of LGBT, I think, oh right, so every asexual's then a lesbian, gay, bi or trans, because I know those terms, but the plus QIA, I don't even know what that means before I found out about asexuality, but I always knew what LGBT means. So I think, you know, it can like be very stereotype. I think there's so many stereotypes in the world, but I do agree, you know, it's really difficult growing up, I think, as a female, when you are, you know, you're so that, you know, when people are at school, they're so, you know, everything's so sexualized. There's a lot of pressure at school to, like, who are you getting off with, who are you having sex with, when have you done it, you know, lost your virginity, like you should have done it by now. I remember that even from kind of my time at school, but I was never interested in stuff like that. I kept out of all those type of conversations, you know. I wasn't interested in that, you know. I've always been interested in kissing though, from a very early age. And I think it's damaging as well for still this image with guys that you can't show your emotions, and that, you know, and that admitting, for example, that you've been taken advantage of by a woman as a guy is still seen as taboo. Like, if you're a guy, you've got to be manly. I think a guy should be strong. I think there's a difference between being really manly for the ego and for appearance's sake, and being a strong guy. The manly guy and the strong guy I see as two different things. I think they're interlinked though. But, you know, I think it's quite damaging when there's so many guys I come across, especially in the asexual community, that have had sexual abuse. And they have had it a lot of the time by women, not all the time. Some have had it by guys as well. But actually, there's a number of them. Yeah, probably. I'm trying to think. Is it? Yeah, I think some of it. Maybe it's more equal, I think, looking back. But I know quite a few asexuals. They have been sexually abused, guys, by men and women actually, but it's not talked about, you know. That's why I'm so pleased about my new asexual book, which I've been calling Asexual Sex Stories, but the title might be changing by the look of it. So basically, you know, it's going to have asexual sex stories in it anyway. You know, it does cover something about male sexual abuse in it, and I think that's so important to highlight that. I'm really glad that the person's come forward to talk about it, you know, because it's not widely discussed. And I think people get afraid as well being asexual, because there tends to be this stigma and this stereotype that, oh, you're asexual because you've had sexual abuse. No, it's not that way at all. There is a lot of asexuals that do happen to have had sexual abuse, but that doesn't make them asexual, you know. And we're more likely to be subjected to rape and sexual abuse anyway, because we don't want it in the first place, and because we're like, what the hell are you doing? We don't expect it, I don't think, from certain people, you know, because we're not that way inclined. So I do think we're a lot more vulnerable in that way. You know, it's like when I was 15 and the guy tried to take advantage of me, you know, and I was 15 and he was 18, so I was underage, and he was trying to do stuff with me, you know, against my will. But I didn't say no at the time. I was just absolutely shocked. I physically stopped him, which was really difficult when he was holding one of my hands down to his bit, you know. It was difficult, you know, and I just put that down to bad incident in my life, but really it was attempted rape, you know. But I didn't think about that at the time. I always put it down to a bad incident. Damaging that condition and guidelines that society, we have to do things at a certain age, we should not care what we do. Exactly. It's very damaging. It's very damaging. You know, children should be free to be kids as well, not have to worry about all this adult stuff that I don't even like. You know, the adult stuff being, oh, what, you know, when you're in a real relationship, you'll have real sex. You know, it's like, if you're not having sex, it's not a real relationship. You're not an adult unless you have sex. It's absolute bollocks. Excuse my language, but it is. I've never heard such drivel in all my life. You know, it's just ridiculous. You know, being an adult is not about whether you have sex or not. Being an adult is about your attitude towards life, towards other people. It's about your personality. It's about the fact you've developed and grown yourself into the best individual you can be, and you're constantly doing that to try and improve yourself. You know, that's what being an adult is. Being an adult is not about sexual private parts. Being an adult is all about attitude, responsibility, you know, caring for other people, being empathetic, sympathetic, loving yourself. That's what being an adult's actually about. And like you said, Heather, you know, there's a lot of damage that's being done, you know, with kids that they, you know, they're being taught all the wrong things in school. I mean, they're not taught how to fend for themselves either when they get out of school, you know. I mean, if they're in a bad situation with their family, for example, or parents, you know, they're not taught how to actually go and live on their own. You know, I know an asexual person who I'm not in contact with anymore because I just had to give up in the end of trying to help them because there's only so much you can do, you know. And they had a bad relationship with their parents, dreadful relationship, left home, to be with a sexual person, pregnant, having his baby, but asexual, but the guy's not good for them. But they were lacking the love at home, so they went off with this guy who they knows no good for them, but they just carry on anyway because they can't stay at their parents because they're, you know, parents are no good. So I think it's very damaging, you know, if kids were taught life skills at school, not sex. I mean, you do need to know about sex because you need to know about you need to know really, because I wasn't really taught about sex. You need to know like the pros and cons of it, the ins and outs of it, all of it, mental, emotional, physical. And in schools, it should be taught properly, not this all giddy girl stuff, you know. We're talking about sex, we don't really want to talk about it, and all that, like, you know, like it should be really gone into really in depth, you know. Because it's very damaging, and I totally agree with you, Heather. It's really, really damaging, and so, you know, that should be gone through, and so should so should asexuality be taught, and also life skills, like I said, about how to live on your own, how to be on your own, you know, how to cope with life, how to make and save money, and all these life skills that are never taught at school. And I really hope that in the future that changes, that sex education becomes sexual education and asexual education, you know, that in time that we incorporate a lot more stuff about asexuals, you know, and we get the message out there because it's so important. You know, it's a shame we can't take over the airwaves of schools for quick, all the computers in the school, quick. This is a message. You don't have to have sex. Beam me up. So yeah, I think it's really important, seriously, and I do think it's still a shame that women's bodies are sexualized in this way, and I think it's a shame that guys are taught to be so, you know, like they're taught, you know, basically the guys are, you know, people try and force guys to be a certain way, and they get a lot of problems later on, which means they can't cope so well if they're a sensitive, kind and caring person, because they're taught to like just be manly. But you need to be teaching guys to be strong, but in a caring, kind way, but in one that's not a pushover, and one that's got strong boundaries with people. And with women, you need to be teaching them that they can be independent business women. They don't have to just be putting out for guys and putting their sexual stuff on display or putting their bodies on display. That they can be beautiful and gorgeous in and of their own right. They can be completely covered up and still look beautifully, intelligently hot, if you know what I mean. And I think, you know, people look at sexiness sometimes in the wrong way. We should be thinking sexiness is intelligence. Sexiness is nerdy. Sexiness is how much self-confidence you've got, how much self-love you've got, how much self-respect you've got. Sexiness is about feeling whole within yourself. Sexiness is about embracing your difference and your beauty. Sexiness is not about the body, it's about the inner being, it's about the soul, it's about really being in tune with who you are, it's about developing yourself and growing yourself and coming alive as you. That is what true sexiness is. That is what true attraction is when you can light up the world with your beauty, so that people will be attracted to you as a person, so that people will feel amazed by you. People will just look at you and think, wow, there's an individual living their own life their way. Wish I was like them, you know. And then we'll get more and more people to be truly who they are and embrace their quirky and be who they were born to be. I just want to conclude by saying, you know, wherever you do fall on the asexual spectrum, this book is to celebrate our asexual diversity and our differences across the spectrum. So if you want to grab a copy, don't forget to grab a copy down below, and keep shining your light, keep embracing your own individuality, and yeah, just keep being you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. And we must remember that we're all different. We're all beautiful in our own right. And you're amazing. You're absolutely ace. Until next time, brace your quirky and each other. Thanks, Heather, so much for joining in. Thank you to everyone else who's tuned in tonight. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live right now, post a new video. And I'll see you on the next video live stream. Night, Heather. Lots of love. Bye, everyone. Bye.